Welcome back, everyone, to episode 2 of Leading in a New Frontier. In this episode, you will hear from Tim and Pete as they continue to discuss the innovative ways in which they are engaging with the teachers, parents, and students. Both gentlemen come to the table chock full of ideas and strategies in which they are using to best support all stakeholders. Sit back, enjoy, and take care. Timmy, segueing a little bit, talk to us about the leading during coronavirus. You had talked about the seminal points or key points from an article that you had come across by McNulty and Marcus, I believe it was. Can you bring us through those critical points?
Yeah, absolutely. That was an article that got shared with me from the Harvard Business Review. I love reading business leadership articles and just sort of uncovering how easily connected they are to educational leadership. So I really liked that article. It really talked about the big thing was, in a moment of crisis like we're in, you have to manage the present. There's no doubt that there is some level of management of the present that must take place. But more importantly than that, we need to lead the future. So we can't get bogged down all day, every day in making sure right now is okay. We have to go bigger than that as leaders. So we have to be sure to delegate as much as possible of the management of the present. And we need to be pushing our thinking and pushing the thinking of everybody else towards the future. So for me, so far, managing the present, and now that we're 9 or 10 weeks into this moment, there's a lot to it, right? Like my student support team, I work closely with, and I would argue most weeks there's 50 to 100 phone calls to try and get students that are struggling, re-engaged or overcoming whatever barriers those families are facing. So that's one thing that I know is so important right now, but my assistant principal has been handling it and I'm in on it, but I don't have to give a ton of thought to it because he's handling it and the team is doing a great job. So that's managing the present, technical and logistical management. Again, like I just try to make sure I have the IT department in place, my assistant principal, my best tech teachers. Like, how do we make sure we manage this right now and help everybody through it? A big part of managing the present, which I feel that I have focused on the most, is just clarity. I'm trying to just provide so much clarity to staff around anything that needs some clarity. And I'm trying to provide as much clarity to families and students as possible as well. So whether it be through emails, whether it be through announcements, whether it be through, twice a week, I record a morning message and send it to the whole school community. I'm just trying to provide clarity for the moment we're in. And that's all great. And that is really important. But what really gets me going and what really I think is so important, especially according to that article, is we got to lead for the future. So I think that's manifested itself for me in two ways. Number one, I'm trying to do something new every week. So the week prior, I'm trying to think about what the next thing's going to be. So, 2 weeks ago, it was time for me to dive in more with the student support team. And so now I've started doing home visits to students that we just can't get through to and can't figure out. And I'm doing a few per week, and they're going great. I'm having nice conversations with kids, nice conversations with adults. And that was sort of me saying, what can I do 2 weeks from now to be better at this? Right. So that's one thing. And then most importantly is my staff would probably say I'm obsessively focused on what is next year going to look like. And I'm thinking about it, but we don't know. Right. And it's not like anybody knows. So it's not like we're being led a lot at the principal level on this, and not to anybody's fault, just we don't know. But I'm trying to make sure that I'm prepping my staff and my school to be ready for whatever comes, So I'm really intrigued with these colleges. I think it was like MIT or Northeastern. They have like 20 to 30 action plans based on 20 to 30 different scenarios that could come forward, right? And what happens in public ed is we're a lot of us will just wait until August and say, okay, so this was what we're supposed to do. Okay, we'll figure this out. And I'm trying to push my school and to say, hey, it could be this, could be this, could be this. And we're going to prepare for all three. And we're going to talk about all three or all four or all five. And when the moment strikes and when we get to that point, we're going to be like the colleges who say, oh, we've been through this. It's that one. Let's go. Right. Rather than in August scrambling to try and figure out what a hybrid model looks like or what a social distance school looks like. So that has really pushed me forward. And I think it's really important because if anybody can lead for the future, it's the principal. Because as much as we're doing, we're not bogged down into the minute to minute of instruction right now. And we can't even go watch the minute to minute of instruction. It's not even like we can go walk into classrooms. So we have time if we dedicate ourselves to planning for the future, and it's really on us to do that. And I think it's super, super important.
Yeah, it's such an awesome comment about getting ahead of it as much as we can, right? And further along in this experience, I hope to really uncover some specific strategies that you folks are looking at and different options, because I feel the same level of urgency. Dealing with this in July and August isn't going to be the ideal way to go about it. Pete, if you would please talk to us a little bit about how you're dealing with the urgency of the now, but yet planning for the future.
Yeah, it's similar to Timmy. In terms of Tim's idea about the action, the different steps for different possibilities, we're doing that too. To sort of summarize where we're at, I'm taking a bit from the movie The Martian. Matt Damon stuck on Mars, and there's a quote in that movie that genuinely, at my lowest moments, has changed my life. And I think I'm the only one in the history of the world where the Martian has changed their life. I'm gonna just say that. But he's recapping his experience, and he goes like, when things get rough, you got two options, and only two. You can quit, or you can just begin. You solve the first problem, and then you solve the second problem. And when you solve enough problems, you make it through. And even as early as this year, very honestly, there was a spot early in this year where I was low, man. I was lower than I was now, and I overwhelmed, a lot going on, just didn't know how I was going to make it out of this. And that movie popped on, and that's when it clicked for me. I was like, I don't need to solve all of this right this second, but what I need to do is just begin. And so that's how we've attacked all of our projects. And there's a lot of projects going that Timmy mentioned, all of them. But I've taken the pressure off of I got to solve all of it immediately. I just got to begin. And that's how I've managed the logistics. And Tim's right in terms of not just having that be your only strategy. As a principal, you've still got to have an eye on what we're going to do and how we're going to come out of this better. So our mantra has been, we're going to do two things. We're going to come out of this, and we're also going to come out of it better. And the way we come out of it better is by keeping our eye on what's the stuff that's new that we need to keep. And whether it's assessments, like I talked about, whether it's some tech bits, whether our school jumped into the amazing Shake, which has just been a fabulous experience, and things that you guys should check out on your own. That we're going to keep. We're not going to let that go. We dove in, and we're going to keep it because it makes our school better. So it's been twofold. How do I manage the logistics? And I manage the logistics. I take a deep breath and I just begin. I solve problem one and go one at a time. And then I don't forget, how am I going to come out of this better? What are the great things we want to keep? By doing that, I feel like we're in a really good place. And I, as a leader, am in a really good place because, like Timmy said, he's got his IT team, he's got his assistant principal. I've got some of the best people in the business working with me. And I've tried to let them do their thing while I do my thing. And my thing is managing the projects and coming out of this thing better. And that's how I've done it. Because you're right, you could certainly get lost in just managing the crisis and making it out and going back to zero. And then what was it all for?
All right, everyone, let's hit pause briefly and highlight the lessons covered so far. Avoid getting bogged down in the day-to-day management of the principalship. Optimism is everything. Teachers need it, students need it, parents need it, you need it. It will prevail. Remember to provide balance and avoid being the lone voice. Make sure everyone is included. Structures are everything. When they're in place, they allow you to breathe and trust in your colleagues. Delegate. Timmy, you uncovered I believe there was 4 leadership traps in your last podcast. Just to review them quickly, the first was avoid being too narrow-minded in your view of leadership. Don't be seduced by managing the crisis. um, this idea of over centralizing the response, and the fourth being don't forget about the human factors. Um, Gentlemen, can you talk about, of the four that you heard, is there a particular trap that you've struggled with and or struggled to avoid? And if so, like how have you worked through the that in particular trap?
Yeah. So for me, when it comes to, you know, not trying to overmanage the crisis, that article really helped me with that. So I kind of feel like if I hadn't read that in the beginning of this time, I would have done that. But I think that helped me take a step back and realize sometimes challenges and issues have to exist for a little while, and then we'll figure out how to fix them together rather than me feeling like I have to immediately fix it, like Pete said. So thanks to this article, I feel like I've done okay with not trying to overmanage the crisis. I do have, I do always have to strike a balance with over centralizing the response, because there is a balance between having a clear message and over talking, right? So or over communicating. So I try to be honest with my staff. And, this week I did something different. We've usually had 10 team meetings a week where myself and my AP are Zooming with our different teams. And through those 10, it's about 2 per day. Through those 10, I see every teacher during the week. And if I got one or two things I got to tell them, great. Then we listen to them. We talk about different kids. We talk about different questions they have. But for instance, this week there was a lot to talk about. We needed to talk about how we're going in to clean the building and how we're going to stay safe during that and how we're going to schedule it. We needed to talk about the schedule over the next few weeks because it changes because of the cleaning of the building. We need to talk about some cool things we got going: an 8th grade yearbook, a talent show, Spirit Fridays, stuff like that. And then I wanted to talk more about what the fall could look like and continue to sort of prepare them and think out loud with them. And so I think I was honest, and I was like, okay, guys, this is going to be a different meeting this week, so we can do it differently. Here are 3 different times. I got a lot of clarity I need to provide. All you need to do is get to any one of these 3 times that works for you. And so, in the one sense, I was really centralizing the message. But in another sense, I think I was realizing we needed to adapt the week. We didn't need to do it 10 times. Like, let them come when they want to come. Don't waste all their time. Give them more free time. Let them have autonomy over the win of attending. And you know what? A byproduct was a lot of teachers that haven't been seeing each other suddenly saw each other in Zoom, which felt good as well. So that I would be lying if I said that was my intent, but it was a nice byproduct. So it's been important to sort of understand the balance between providing clarity and sort of becoming the only voice. That's what we don't want to do as principals either.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on that. It was the one I struggle with is over centralizing response, and it was actually Timmy's, teacher's cup of coffee or leader's cup of coffee that helped bring me back to using the structures that I have in place. We got a big building. I got almost 1,000 kids, 136 adults that work there, all kinds of stuff going on, and now we're in the middle of this big crisis. And the trap is I want to be the hero, or I'm the principal. This is all my job. I got all of it. Instead of leaning on the structures that I have that are going to help make us out of there, I got 3 of the best assistant principals in the world. I got incredible department chairs. I got great teams. Our structures are set up so that I don't have to do every single thing. And I went the first day or two where I tried to do every single thing. And then I finally sat back and worked with my leadership team to go, you're in charge of this. You're in charge of this. Just like Timmy, here's our meeting structure. Here's my communication structure, and put the structures in place and then let them work. And that was one of the best things for me. And it allowed me to not forget the human side, which is also one of the traps. Where if I was trying to be the whole central bit, I would have forgotten the human side. I would have forgot you have a family or a kid or a mom that's ill or something like that, because I would have been so focused on I got to get us through, instead of we're going to get through, and I'm going to let the structures be what the structures will be. Our setup is a little different from Tim's, where I'm not in every meeting every week, but a member of our team is in everything every time. And I had to have that be good enough for me because we had to manage it in a little bit different way. And it's been successful. When I tried to stop doing everything and let my great people do their great roles, and clarify those roles, everything settled for us. And it was that podcast that was really, really helpful in reminding me to do that.
All right, everyone, let's do a quick recap before we close things out on episode 2. It really comes down to reflection and adaptation. Take the time to reflect on your practice. Be aware, be thoughtful of those 4 traps that you heard Timmy and Pete talk about. And then don't be afraid to adapt and to adjust, to learn from those mistakes. Thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Leading in a New Frontier. Be on the lookout for episode 3, and in the spirit of a little foreshadowing, possibly even 4. Check us out on NPT Education. Hope all is well in your worlds. Take care.